Hello and welcome to this special Planning Commission meeting for December 22nd, 2022 for the Saratoga Springs Planning Commission. I'm going to lead us in the pledge. Would the audience please stand and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The audience may be seated. So for roll call, all of planning commissioners who are presently planning commissioners are here this evening. And we have the city staff that's required to be here as well. We have a quorum present. The next item is public input, and this is for anything that's not currently on the agenda that's labeled for public hearing. The two items on the agenda this evening are both public hearings. So if you would like to make a comment on one of those items, you can do that during that time. If you have something else you would like to talk about that's not on the agenda this evening, you can go ahead and make a comment, but please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Joanna Graham with Kimley Horn. There was going to be a text amendment, I thought, on the agenda, but that got pulled. So I just wanted to come and give a comment on, it sounds like there's some talk about not allowing kennels in the Gateway area. And I just wanted to reiterate that this is a great area to have a dog boarding facility because it creates ease for the users to just, on their way to work, stop, drop off their dog, and then head back on the road. I also think there's a lot of connotation with the word kennel, and I think a lot of us picture, chain link fences and not well-managed facilities, but I will reiterate that the pet suites that we are looking at putting in the Gateway is a very well-managed facility. There's no chain link fences, there's full masonry walls that perimeter the outdoor area, so we really want to put this in to benefit your community. I think that having a dog boarding facility is something that Saratoga Springs needs. So we hope that we're able to develop this here, and we want to do that and serve your community. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and close public comment at this time, and we're going to move on to our next item, item number 4, public hearing amending the City of Saratoga Springs zoning map to plot the Gateway overlay designation to specific areas. This is city initiated. This will be presented by Ken Young, our Community Development Director.
Let's see, is this working? Okay. So commissioners, again, thank you for being here tonight. We'll try to do this as quickly from a staff perspective as we can, but you certainly give us good and thorough review as you feel necessary. And we are looking for recommendations from you in regards to particular properties that will be included in this Gateway area. So we're looking at the map, and we're also looking at some options for various properties that may or may not be included. So we will review those. I won't review everything that we did here. We gave the purpose and intent of the Gateway overlay, which has already been approved. There is a small list there of some of the areas or properties that have expressed concern or we've had issues or questions on. Tommy's Car Wash concept plan. They have now submitted a final and complete site plan application, so they are considered vested under the current ordinance, so that would no longer be a concern, at least in regards to legality there. Napa Auto concept plan is another one. McLaughlin Properties, we received notification from McLaughlin's that all of the properties that they own in 2 different areas that are being proposed that they would prefer not to have included in the Gateway. I'm not sure how that's going to work since they have some very key properties that we're looking at. Wright Development Group, that's another one I'll point out and talk about in Ambro and Son, different areas. So, again, this area number one, we initially were looking at the entire property on the west side of Redwood Road there, which is both the gray and the red. The blue line intersects down through the middle based on zoning, but it is all one property owner. But since the west side is office warehouse, and that is one of the uses that is prohibited by the gateway, we changed the line there. It doesn't do anything in regards to noticing because it is all the same property, but it just has different zoning on it. So that would be our recommendation to, if we apply on this property, that it would follow the zoning on that property. I'll just, that's the only question we have from a staff level in this area. If you have any concerns or questions about this particular area being called area number one or North Redwood Road, let's discuss that. Or otherwise just include that in your motion that all of area one, as shown in the staff report or the presentation, should be included. Any questions or comments before I move from this area? So we would like to, our recommendation, staff recommendation, is that this area as drawn on this exhibit and included as an exhibit in the staff report be or have the gateway overlay applied. So if you don't have concerns or questions with that now, when you make your motion, then we'll just say area one as shown on the staff report.
Since this is a public hearing, generally, we've had the presentation and then the public comment and then the planning commission. So should we kind of do like a brief overview of everything and then do public comment and then come back?
We can do that, yeah.
Okay.
Because of that, I'll briefly review the areas and then we can talk about them more specifically afterwards. Okay, so then number two area is the area that we're kind of in, or just east of us here. So you have the Steel Ridge subdivision, which is on the south side of the street. The yellow circle is the location of Tommy's Car Wash. And right next door to that is where the proposed kennel that was mentioned earlier tonight would have been or might be. Don't want to say exactly what's going to happen there. But otherwise, the lines is drawn. River's Edge on the north side of the street, we've already reviewed their site plan. And then you've got future multifamily on the southeast side where the river makes a sharp bend. So that's that area, area 2, East Crossroads. The option here is we could draw the line to not include the properties of Tommy's Car Wash or the one adjacent to it, or there could be multiple ways of drawing those lines. But again, I'll go back. Tommy's is where the number 4 is on that map. Immediately adjacent to it, we've moved the number 4 here because that's all kind of part of the same subdivision. But the one adjacent to that, in the middle between RC and 4, as shown here, is where the proposed kennel was. No, the one in between number 4 and RC.
Okay, okay.
So again, these lines can be drawn in different ways, and I didn't want to draw all multiple ways of doing that, but we can talk about that further. Okay, then area 3 is Pioneer Crossing to Redwood. This includes a fairly substantial area on both north and south there. There are several of those properties that are owned by McLaughlin's that I'll point out here in a minute. The number 3 parcel that's listed here with a red circle around it is the Napa Auto Parts. So there was a concern about them being included. So what we've done is we've come up with a proposed option by taking out all those properties that are north of Thrive Drive and then also going over to Redwood Road on that whole northern area. So it would just include those that are shown in the MU or the orange gold colored properties. Then on the south side of Pioneer Crossing, you've got some properties there that may or may not be included. We've got some options listed there, and we'll discuss those more. But this map does show by green cross, if you can see that, or a green X indicated in the corner of the number of that property is the McLaughlin properties. So on this option, 2 of them would not be included, but then there are others throughout that are proposed to be included. I'll just point out number 17 on this lot or this map is UDOT property. So ultimately, that could be an expansion area of the roadway. So that's kind of something to keep in mind, because if that does get included as additional roadway, then the impact of the gateway on development would be very much lessened if we change the boundary as shown in this option. Okay, then
on number 1.
that's the zoning, so it's business park zoning.
Okay.
Okay. Then we have area number 4, which is also Pioneer Crossing, but the council asked for us to have 2 areas on Pioneer Crossing for gateway overlay proposal. This goes up to 2300 West and Lehigh, or Saratoga Road in Saratoga. The yellow lines in the middle between the numbers is where Pioneer Crossing roadway is currently. The properties on the south side are, let's see, I'll show here, 230 feet deep. Before I go back, I just wanted to see the depth of the area. So, but those are both owned by UDOT. However, on the east of these 2 parcels and to the west of these parcels, they are privately owned and potential development could occur. So my thought is may or may not be developed by UDOT, may be sold by them. Who knows what the future is, but this is a good location for the gateway. Then just showing this, it did initially include properties going southwards in the red area. As we've determined with zoning and some concepts that have already been submitted and a request by property owners that they not be included, we offered this as an option to not include those. They are not on the intersection, so we thought maybe this area isn't as important for a gateway overlay, so staff were okay with not including those red area properties. Now this option shows distance. Now the McLaughlin properties on the north side are fairly deep, especially on the middle to western end. So there are some options of lines of distance that we could redraw to include a portion of the property. There is a request that office warehouse be allowed on their property. They're looking at steps and are asking the city what they can do. They're requesting to be able to have office warehouse. If we apply the overlay on their entire property, as shown here, then that would exclude office warehouse on any of their property. So if we redrew the line at one of these points, it would give them options for that type of development behind the gateway overlay.
Can I ask just a really quick question? The west border is that Jordan River on the west, on the
It's further over. You're getting into it. There's some wetland.
okay.
The Chew property is what.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so then Area 5 is West SR 73. Just a small portion area before we get into the city boundaries. On the north, some of that is institutional or general industrial, or that just may or may not need to have this type of overlay placed on them based on access and proposed uses. However, looking to the future, not knowing exactly what may or may not occur, we have included those properties there. And then on the south, there's some community commercial up to the roadway that goes up Saratoga Road. That's the new boulevard that is not completely open yet, but will be sometime soon. Then Area 6, we're on West Pony Express. Got 3 different areas based kind of on the situation that we have funky boundary lines with Eagle Mountain. So we have the 1 and 2 properties that are part of the Mount Saratoga community plan that are zoned for commercial or concepted for commercial. And then you got the commercial areas further east of that where the real first border between the two cities occurs, and on the south side, which would be just an area designated by 500 feet by 500 feet. It's a part of the larger parcel that is owned by SLR. The plan, the district area plan for what may occur there. They've had some initial concepts, but they don't know exactly what's going to go in that area. So we're just including an area for that kind of corresponds in the same approximate entry or exit area with what's happening across the street. And then finally, area number 7 is on the south end of town where there's really no development occurring right now. However, there is the proposed highway extension that could be a causeway over the freeway that would align up to Pelican Point. Currently, our city boundaries end right at that point before we get to Pelican. So we can't zone or apply an overlay on anything outside of our city boundaries. So if our boundaries do expand in this area and could, based on our annexation policy, then we would want to expand the overlay on those properties as well. But for now, we've identified a 500-foot distance that would make a square 500 feet by 500 feet on either side if we do it based on an option proposal, drawing the line as shown in the red line here. Or we could extend it all the way over to the lake, which would correspond with the proposed alignment of the highway as it goes to that Pelican Point area. However, we don't know the exact alignment yet, and so, maybe that's something we're going to need to adjust into the future if we do it this way. But those are two options. One is just to do the whole blue box. The other is just to create 2 square boxes on the corner there. So, any questions with any of those?
All right, so this is a public hearing, so I'll go ahead and open this up for the public to make comment. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Don't do any, try not to repeat any comments, and please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Logan Johnson with Wright Development Group. Our address is 1178 West Legacy Crossing Boulevard. We have properties that are near the corner of Saratoga Road and Pioneer Crossing. We own the hard corner that's roughly represented by numbers 9 and 10, in addition to the areas 13, 12, and 14. We're thankful we got the notice for this. Our concern with the areas 13, 12, and 14 are 13 was recently rezoned by this group as office warehouse. And so I think it just makes sense that would be excluded. And it sounds like another area that's sort of, that just makes sense generally to staff. And then the ask from us is for properties 12 and 14 to also be excluded. The reason for that is we have a signed lease with an ACE that we're trying to get in with that. And we would have loved to have been a little quicker with that application, but there were some technicalities that we were working through with staff, including the creation of that office warehouse zone, some plat and procedural stuff. We do have a concept application in. And so we would appreciate the flexibility of excluding that so that we can pursue the tenant that we have in mind. And furthermore, we submitted a letter that we think there's good reason to exclude it. Between 12 and 14 and 9 and 10, there's an existing car wash that is grandfathered in. And so we think there's just less bang for the buck out of the addition of the gateway zone there. We have the hard corner, and we did think it would be a little disingenuous to ask for that to be excluded. So we recognize that will likely be included, even though, truth be told, our preference would be that it's not. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, my name's Brandon Goodman. I am with the owners of the Steel Ridge development. So we could go to that site plan. Here we are. So one of our other owners was here last time with you, and I think he made the comment of maybe not including our entire development. So that next option that you created, I think we're more in favor of this. One of our concerns is the parcel that's just below number 4. Right now we have concept drawings that may have some parking
Okay, I guess the question I have, so you're talking about that parcel below the number 4 that would have frontage on a future proposed road? That roadway, I guess this is a question for staff or anybody else who may know the answer to this. Is that a collector or arterial road that would be planned through there? Because if it's not collector or arterial, then the gateway would not apply to whatever development requirements there are.
Which road is that?
So he's saying there's a proposed roadway on the south side of Steel Ridge subdivision.
There's already a road there.
Is there a road? Between 4 and 5. If it's not a collector arterial, then the gateway development requirements would not apply.
Oh, this is a collector road right here, this one. It's already existing. This one right here, that's an existing collector road. Is that?
Yeah, so we can all worry if that's what you're talking about.
Just that one parcel behind.
This one right here?
So Ken, you're saying it won't matter anyway if it's in, right?
Well, if it's a collector road, then it,
Oh, it would matter if it's, oh, okay.
yeah.
Our city attorney, did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. Any other comments from the public? I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Then I'm going to open this up for the Planning Commission to discuss the different areas. So can we take the, let's go back to Area 1 on the screen and questions for staff from the Planning Commission on this area.
Can we go through and decide on each one? Do you think
Yes.
that's and we can do that, and then we can make a motion in the end after we.
Right,
Okay.
right. Commissioner McConkey.
Just to be sure, I'm understanding this, currently it includes the office warehouse, and the revise is to exclude the office warehouse area, is that correct?
Well, the noticing went out to include that entire parcel. However, we haven't had anything official before you until, well, last meeting, but this is a continuation of that. So redrawing the line at this point really doesn't change anything. It's just, it's what, we've changed it from our proposal on a staff level.
Right, okay, thanks.
Any other questions on Area 1 before we go to Area 2?
That one's easier, yeah.
So let's go to Area 2.
So if we could, just get a general nod or I'm okay with this area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Before we go on to the other ones. 2 is hard.
so the option redraws that southern line further east, but, you know, it could be adjusted based on, you know, what we've heard tonight or whatever you feel necessary.
Is this the area where the kennel is?
Not in the revision.
So the kennel would be in between the circled property and what is shown as number 4 here. So it's that little one in between those two.
So it's not in the,
It's not in this revised proposal, but.
okay.
It is in the current one,
Well,
or
Oh, there's no
in
current.
the original, I should say, in the
these,
original.
in this original one, these are all the properties that were noticed, that there was a potential for it to be applied on their properties.
Okay.
So you can recommend to include all of them or change the boundary.
Would it require a change in the code in order to move the boundary? There's not like a footage?
No, we didn't
Really
do that
completely
because the footage is so different all over the place on different
Yeah.
properties, it's difficult to have that in the same.
What's the pro and con for this option?
Well,
I mean, other than taking into account the wishes of the property owners?
I think, and
Because you originally did draw it out further out, so I was just wondering why we're okay with bringing it in.
Because you have the car wash now as well.
so.
That's the only reason then.
What this proposal shows in the original lines is that it's 300 and, I don't have it on my paper in front of me, sorry, 350 feet would be the depth of the full subdivision there.
Okay.
210 feet is what it would be if we took it to that middle line. And if we took out their property, as they mentioned, then it would be 210 feet. So I guess the idea was, we want to put enough substantial property that would be developed, that would have the visibility and the character of the gateway. So in that, there are separate parcels here with different development buildings. It could be that, whatever is built along the front there is going to be most visible and will have that character. And the ones in the back may not be as important. But we just included the entire subdivision since it was all one property owner. And, a lot of our areas do include at least 300 feet of depth. But, depends on what you think works.
Can we compare this to the East Pioneer to Redwood, where we're talking about taking the back row out as well, and what the depth is there in the change? So what is it 200 feet? Oh, you just had it, sorry, go back one more. So we're talking about potentially taking her off that back row to help the Napa Auto Parts and whatever else
Right.
might be, and kind of along the lines that you're just talking about, where maybe the back row is not as important.
Right, it's
Do you know
very
what-
similar situation.
Yeah, do you know what the depth is on that front row, so we would have something to compare to the East Crossroads? I don't see the footage on that.
The depth seems to be deeper on those frontage properties than on SR7.
Well, I would say at parts it is, but then at parts, I would say we're probably pretty close, like when you're at 9.
Yeah, it looks
Right.
pretty
Possibly.
close. If you go on the south side there's the depth of between Pioneer Crossing and the blue line there is 225 feet. And if you eyeball it, put that up there, it's going to be something similar depending on which parcels you're
Yeah.
talking about. Some of them were deeper than others.
Yeah, but we're roughly probably around 200-something odd feet.
2 to 225, 30, or something like that. Some of them could be like 250 or so.
All right, thanks for doing that.
So if we granted say what the property owners are asking for, and then, whatever business reason, those properties change, or the businesses change, can we, the properties in perpetuity have grandfathered in?
Well, this would be put on unless the city took it off. I mean, I suppose an applicant could request it be taken off, and you'd have to review the reasoning and determine whether that's a good idea. I would think the idea with the gateway is that we're trying to create good, positive development and visibility of the community when we first come in, and I don't know if that's something you're going to want to change. So this one does have, let's see, maybe we should go back to number 2.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at right now is the proposal that's the current one, is that correct? Except for,
This is what was noticed.
okay,
And so we just put the circle over the car wash, so they now have vesting. So even if we included all of that area, they wouldn't need to be held to.
So
the-
legally, they're going in there, no matter what we decide.
Right.
Is that how, okay.
So, but everything else in that subdivision would be in the gateway, and according to the requirements of the gateway.
But the kennel we discussed last time around,
Yeah.
that gets thrown out now if you.
If we decide to do this.
Why?
Well, at this point, it's not there, but there is a proposal coming forward in January, a pending ordinance to the city council to hold it, and then right after that, coming to you at your first meeting in January, where you can review additional uses to be prohibited, including kennels is on that list,
In the general outlay,
In the overlay.
In the
I mean
overlay.
overlay.
in the
yeah.
overlay. Yeah.
Can I ask a favor? Can we just briefly go over what the requirements of the overlay are again?
Boy, I should have had that in front of
Sorry
me.
I should have looked that up before, but I'm sitting here thinking, it might be helpful for us to really know. and
Okay, well, I can give you a general idea, and we can pull up the code, maybe.
I know the parking can't be along the road. We've already-
Right, parking along the road is
mentioned.
not permitted. The actual structure of the building has got to have architecture that is kind of, there's some definition for what that means, is between the road and the building side of the building. And there's some landscaping, additional landscaping requirements. So really, it's the prohibited uses, the parking, and some additional landscaping and architectural requirements.
So if the kennel, or, you know, she said that kennel is not necessarily the right word to describe what her business is, but if it met those other requirements, like the parking and the landscaping and such, is there a problem with, I mean, is there a reason why we are just excluding kennels? Something about kennels that we don't like in this area?
It was requested, or staff was requested to include that on the prohibited list at the city council level,
And the general overlay.
in the gateway.
In the gateway
I mean,
overlay?
sorry, I say it wrong every time. Okay.
But as we've looked at it since they told us that, we looked more with a fine tooth comb at the list of uses, so we've come up with a lengthier list of additional prohibited
That
uses.
can't be there. Okay.
And that will come to us in January.
Yes.
And we don't have a site plan application from the doggy daycare, I think it was. Maybe that's a better way to call it than kennel.
Not yet.
Okay.
So when she presented to us, I liked what she was saying, and I wanted to agree with her, you know, because they do have that large I don't know if it's landscape area, but the outdoor area that
Right.
is a buffer.
But this part's hard because I'm not against the kennel at all. Like I
And
want.
that'll
it
come
needs to be
back.
Her
So
use.
the conversation tonight shouldn't really be about whether the kennel
That-
can go in
it's
this.
just if we
or
want-
not. It's just whether the gateway overlay can go here, and then that conversation about the kennel
Comes later on.
go in
Okay.
January.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to,
Well, it doesn't though, because if we
It does
change
a little
if we
bit.
change the border, then
Yeah.
it becomes irrelevant, because then it's not part of the gateway over.
yeah, that's why I was talking. is-
Yeah.
Like on the option
Border.
2, that means the border shifts and then
There.
it never even
Yes.
come back up on the discussion.
And we're just making a
However,
recommendation, and the city council may
Not, yeah.
not accept it and make it
Part of
bigger.
the challenge we have with that too, and Sarah, I don't know if you can take it back to the map, is that we have learned from the kennel operators that are making this request that they are looking or have acquired additional property to the east to make their parcel larger, because, you know, they made the request to have a lower parking requirement. That was denied by city council. So they're looking at additional property so that they can meet the parking requirement. Well, that hasn't been subdivided according to whatever they have done or are proposing to do, so we don't know where those lines are. If we, you know, we might have to come back and make a further adjustment on the map if
that happens.
if we purposefully not include them in the gateway.
If we look at can we look at the map again? Area 2? What we're trying to achieve, just kind of looking at it from a broad perspective, is we're trying to create, we're trying to set Saratoga Springs apart from the adjacent cities. So not only will visitors and residents know when they've come into Saratoga Springs, but it will be a welcome environment. It'll be a welcome experience when they come in here. If I can share my opinion, the smaller the overlay is, the less effective to me that it's going to be. So then now we're only talking maybe a couple of buildings or something like that. And to me, it almost defeats the purpose of having an overlay. We don't need to have, you know, a mile-long overlay. That, of course, would be ridiculous. But to decrease it to the point that we've only got a couple of parcels from the entrance, just becomes ineffective. That's just my opinion.
So you're in favor of the longer?
I am in favor. I feel like that, and kind of taking out of my mind, of course, the parcel 4 right there is what it is, and that's okay. But, you know, just taking out of my mind any others who have desires or have made some investments or whatever, just looking at what the purpose is that we're trying to achieve here, I feel like this achieves closer to what we're trying to hit.
So are we taking turns talking, or how are we doing this today?
We're just kind of
Can it be my
free flow.
turn?
Different,
Can it be my turn? Okay, so I thought about this quite a bit, actually, over the last couple of weeks. Because, yeah, this idea that as a planning commission, we're looking at what we have and where we're going to go in the future, and attempting to just make good plans for our city and the citizens that we represent. And so I looked at some of the kind of these overlay plans and where they kind of stem from. And from what I could see and learned is a lot of, when the freeways went in, a lot of freeways went in areas where it was more industrial. And so, but then it turns into like the entrance to the city is through the freeway, right? And so I really looked at like downtown Salt Lake and some of those original entryways. And to me, it really makes more sense to make it a bigger and more restricted area, in that we should be taking pride in our city, and part of doing that is having regulation and putting that in place and enforcing it. And so for me, and also I just love rules so much. And so for me, it's I'm going to go bigger on it, and I would rather see more restriction and more beautification, because I think that's a lot of what our citizens would want as well.
I agree with that on the citizen
And
side, but, you know.
I don't feel like some of the restricted uses, I don't think we'd really want those as our entryway anyways, but having nicer architecture isn't asking too much craziness to me. That's all.
Well, and I guess it's, you know, since, Ken, what you brought up about possibly what the property owners are expecting to do in the future, we really can't base the code on what,
Yeah, because we have no
we
idea.
can't read the
Yeah.
future. We don't, it may not even be the right place for them once they figure out that this code's going to stay firm. So that's starting to, yeah, that swayed me. I agree with it.
Ken, I think you brought that up last time. Like, we can't base any of our decisions like on future whatevers, right?
Right.
Consistent.
No, like I think you did, and it was like a big wake-up call. That's true.
Yeah.
Like, we really can't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'm hearing general indication, if we can do it, maybe a straw poll or straw nods, that you're okay with this first proposal for this area?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to Area 3 then.
Reed, I want to hear your opinion on this stuff. I always like your opinion.
Yeah.
Shoot, it's tough.
If you don't have it, that's okay. But,
My only concern is consistency, so
yeah.
I really appreciate the comments that have been said. Tend to agree. In some ways, I feel like we've already lost a step because of things that have already taken place into
Yeah.
these gateway areas, because you're going to cruise up Crossroads and you're going to see Del Taco and McDonald's already.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like,
No, that's true.
do I come up Crossroads and feel like I'm coming into something really special right now? Like, it's unfortunate, but some of that ship sailed. And we have the McDonald's and the Del Tacos and the Subway and the UPS store, and the Anytime Fitness. Like, we already have, and those buildings are aging, you know, and things are happening in that regard. And that doesn't mean like we should throw our hands up and be like, like it's done. But then it's like, I feel,
But if you do the cutoff, like that kind of is right before all that. And so it kind of makes more sense, I guess, when you.
say that again, I'm sorry.
Just if you do the shorter one, like the smaller one, then all that stuff is after, right? So it kind of makes more sense. There's this area that has that.
Well,
and then-
you can see what both proposals is not even including,
Right.
you know, that's already out because the
Yeah.
ship sailed.
But since it's already there on that side anyway.
Yeah. So those guys win and these guys lose because, you know,
Yeah.
that's always a factor in planning. But I feel like that's a tough call. And then we have the car wash. The guy gets the car wash because he caught wind and rushed and got his paperwork in, and it happened to line up for him. And now the kennel loses because they're going
Yeah.
through. But that's just, it's, again, maybe I'm just being too tender-hearted. It's the holidays, whatever. But it's a tough call in my opinion. It's not as black and white. And all I care about really is being consistent, because like you look at these varying shapes and sizes, and it seems as if, and I understand, and I kind of asked this last time, right? We're going around property lines. And I understand why the shaping takes the place that it does, and I've got a couple comments on a couple of the other areas, but we can be consistent to where if we're gonna say, okay, we're gonna go, full depth on this side where we're going 350, then we ought to go full depth on the Pioneer Crossing side as well, regardless, because that's not, why does Napa win and these guys lose, I guess is what I'm saying. And it's not necessarily the win or lose. I guess I should reframe that. It's not win or lose, but we're holding these guys to it, so we ought to hold those next guys to it. If we're gonna go, this full depth and think those are the windows that we wanna see when we're coming into these various corridors of the city, then we ought to hold firm around those windows as close as we can. That's why I was asking around the depth.
So maybe we should have that conversation about the next pieces and then
come back to
and then
number
come
two.
back
I agree
and
with
say,
that.
yes, we're good with this, and no, we're not good with that.
So I didn't help you at all, Commissioner.
No.
Martin.
I value your opinion on stuff like that, and so I wanted to hear it, so thank you for sharing.
I have another question, just throwing out even a broader thought here. Is there a reason why we're not including the existing properties?
Well,
Looking down the road at.
most of these that we're looking at applying the gateway are undeveloped. So that makes
Correct.
sense. When there's existing
Then-
fairly new development, there's not a whole lot that we can go back and apply the gateway, or, we could do it now, but of course, those have not been noticed, so it would have to be
Sure.
a separate motion. We could say, yeah, we're gonna apply it on you, it's not going to be applicable until and if you do any property, major improvements or whatever.
And that's, and those are my thoughts. So as the city ages and those properties age, they'll do a facelift or, typically they don't do a tear down and rebuild for many years.
Right.
Wondering if the gateway overlay zone for existing properties might include those types of activities. If you're going to do a facelift, then here's some guidance that we, as a city, would like that to look like, so that we're recreating a true gateway. It's not kind of a cut-up thing, but we're incorporating when they do their facelift.
I appreciate that, Commissioner McConkey, and I actually tend to agree with that. That goes to some of my concern already. And I think that could help us, and I don't necessarily think it needs to preclude us from this discussion tonight, but maybe future discussion talking about overlaying existing properties and have that on an agenda and discuss. Because I think it's valid. Like you see like a 1980s Taco Bell, if you drive down Redwood Road, any number of cities in Salt Lake, right? And it was once a Taco Bell, and it's clear that it was a Taco Bell, but now it's a law firm or something like that, And maybe that.
so true.
And maybe that helps us to that point down the road when things do change hands or businesses move on, things of that nature. We could talk about overlaying existing properties. I feel much more comfortable with that if we're going to be just consistent, I guess, across the board in our view
Or-
corridors of what we
Yeah,
do.
maybe it's a 500 feet off of the street and down however many feet, from the entry into the city. And that
I
covers all
appreciate you
properties.
raising it.
So with that, I think that's a good comment. We can schedule, if you would like, a future discussion.
Yeah, future discussion.
Regarding this.
I think that would be worth
Yep, I agree.
So on this one, this is what we noticed, correct? The first,
Yes.
and then that's taking those others out. Where's the depth? You had the depth somewhere, right?
It's right
Is
there,
it this one?
We have a guesstimate for what's on the north side.
Yeah, sorry, didn't do it on the north side, but, again, where it says 18, up to the.
Do you have
yeah,
GIS?
well, up to where Pioneer Crossing could extend there is 225. So that's approximately the same depth that you would see on most of those properties.
The yellow cross hatching, that's residential, right?
Yes.
At the top, yeah.
And what's the dashed line on the bottom by A?
So that's an option that corresponds with the previous map.
First one.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize it was that far.
Okay, what happened? Something happened with the.
Sorry, I was asked for GIS, but
I'm wondering if we can scale, does it have a
So the original
ruler?
proposal includes that dotted line, just to show where that's being.
From the first, oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So, again, on this, if you take the depth on the south side from the proposed extension of, no, that would actually be an existing right-of-way area, that the red line goes up to from the southern boundary, that's 510 feet. But that's all one property there, well, two, actually, in that area. So if we excluded those, you only have 225 feet left if you're including number 17, which is UDOT property. So that may or may not
Who knows,
be
yeah.
developable. So if we're only looking at 18 over on the east end, it's only 50 feet.
So what's 19 and 20? Those are ones,
Those are McLaughlin properties. Again, everything that's got a green X on the number is a McLaughlin property. And those were noticed to be in the original area.
and they requested them not to be included, correct?
Now, all the green X's are requested to be not included. I don't know how you do that.
So for me,
number-
I'm more worried about length, like you guys are talking about, than I'm about depth, right? So I just feel like if we, but then again, I don't know.
You're on the major intersection of Pioneer Crossing and Redwood Road, so that's why you kind of have depth in both directions.
Right.
So this one's going to be an important one because a lot of people are going to be seeing this one as they come through. And they'll probably associate this more with entering Saratoga than where a little bit further to the east where we have the, on the corner, though, that's in a ways. And the car wash there. This is going to be what they're going to see. This is Saratoga when you hit here.
On the precluded uses, is an auto parts store
Yeah.
precluded, or is it just that Napa doesn't want to have them?
Or Saratoga.
Auto parts is currently, anything auto
This
related
is definitely more that.
is a prohibited.
Is a prohibited use currently?
So
As proposed, yeah.
Napa doesn't, they're not,
Grandfathered in, is that
what's the vested?
vested?
Vested.
Yeah, they have a concept plan in, and they have requested that they, was it you? Tiffany?
concept, that's all we had, and it was very bare bones.
Yeah, but we did receive communication from them that they would like to be excluded.
Yeah, didn't they come last?
Yeah, they came in last night and talked to us too.
What's the, of course, we don't want what the city council feels about it. We'll just make a recommendation and they can slice and dice it. Which I'm sure they will, based on our parking recommendation, they'd
They
throw
nixed
that out.
yeah.
It seems to me that it's safer for us to go bigger than smaller at this point, especially if we're going to pursue some additional discussion on incorporating the existing properties and so forth that we've already talked about. And then as part of that discussion and some proposals, maybe some of these areas will shrink down a little bit and, you know, some of those properties may or may not be excluded based on a new standard of depth and length or whatever it is.
So with this one, because there's a road behind, I don't really see that there's going to be much of a difference visually
That's what I'm thinking.
by
on this.
excluding the pink area, the pink and blue area. I mean, I agree, you know, maybe bigger, bolder is a general concept, but again, since it's so far away from the road, Pioneer Crossing, separated by a second road, that I don't think, again, visually,
I think though, at some point there will, and this is a total guess, but at some point there will probably be an over-under system put in. And at that point, those properties do become more visible.
But again, then we're going on the future
Possibly.
again, right?
And-
Like, we don't know.
Yeah, and that is part of that, but I feel like as a planning commission, we should take some of that, we should think about some of that. We should be planning and making some,
but I feel if we have an overpasses and stuff like that, it's no longer really
It's not. it's-
visually a
it's-
gateway. It's a freeway,
yeah.
you know?
One thing you might want to consider is, we can put it on, and you might get a little kickback or whatever, but it's a lot easier to put it on than it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
to take it off later.
I'm leaning towards bigger is better.
I think that property number one, that blue one, should be included. The pink ones, I'm iffy on.
Can you, off of the GIS map, can you measure the depth of those properties? Sarah?
So the
There-
3,
the
4, and 5,
orange-
we would,
Sorry, and like number 11 is 200 feet,
200?
200.
200.
200.
So we're looking at about 450,
15 and 8 will be.
450 to 500 maybe for that full.
See, again, visually, if the second road above on the north, if it's on, if the south side of that road was completely covered in trees, we would never know the difference when you're driving through. You know, visually, You wouldn't know. I mean, all you have to do is just put a whole row of trees in there, and then there's no reason why that whole section of property has to be included.
But what if there's no trees?
Same way, same thing. I just think that, I mean, it's so arbitrary.
But they also don't have the parking issue off of that street. They don't.
Again, it's
have a
behind the property.
specific- The same compliance requirement, right? Because off, of what is that road called?
Well, yeah, that wouldn't,
Right.
doesn't exist. A collector or arterial would. Thrive Drive.
So,
Drive, yeah.
and-
Riverside would be, though.
so number 14 is 280 feet.
280, okay.
Sarah, do you know, is Thrive Drive considered a collector?
It's not.
Riverside would be though, however.
Right.
Right through it,
It's gonna go, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so they're really looking at more just architectural
Which,
Well, and which
They do too much.
uses can go in.
and which uses, correct?
Yeah, some of those uses. I wouldn't mind having a pot shop right there. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
It's all arbitrary on what you choose and not.
Well, it would be good access
It would be.
for Lehigh to come in. That would be additional sales tax revenue.
There we go. There we go. We can stop going to
All
Lehigh.
these years we give them our-
I see that.
So it sounds like most of you are leaning. Sarah, can you put me back on?
Oh, yeah.
Leaning towards the full area,
I am, yes, for now.
which sounds like you're also, because of that, leaning towards this full area.
I think I am.
For this one, yeah. On the other one, I'm kind of the pink area, maybe take that out. Or do something with this and do a triangle at the 1719 area, so it's a little bit longer than just 50 feet. And maybe where Riverside Drive is and where 5 and 6 is, maybe include 5 and 6, but not 7, 4, and 3.
How would that work?
No,
That's really cutting things up.
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. You have your right to have your own opinion. Sorry, I didn't mean to say no to you. You're not a child.
Talk about gerrymandering.
Yes, yes.
Okay, do you want me to move on, or do you want to discuss these more?
I
Could we
think-
take like a preliminary vote on this one?
I think the comment of it's
Discuss-
easier to remove it later.
well, is it?
Well, I think the city
I think
council.
there's more
slice and
discussion
dice
that's,
whatever we do.
I think there's more discussion needed here on these, but we've got to start somewhere. And it's just, it's my opinion.
Well, and may I
Going
just throw in a
big,
comment
great way to
real quick?
start.
There is a sense of urgency, not only because of concept plans, but also other goals and thoughts of people involved with this, both the council level and otherwise, that we not delay this further, that we make a
We'll
decision.
decide today. Yeah.
So should we just do like a little preliminary vote, like who all would want to have it be everything?
Like the eye doctor, A or B, which is better.
Yeah.
So this is A.
Area 3A,
I'm in favor of 3A.
Same.
Okay, I'll go for A.
So we have 3 for 3A and
What's for,
I'm for B, because I don't think, with that road back there, I don't think it makes, I don't know, I think that
oh,
there's no reason to include it when you have a road behind there. So, B.
but you see that it's dropping that part in the bottom corner, right?
so you could do a modified B, say include the south side, but make the modification on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could maybe go for that too.
Fred?
That is what I was going to say, is as long as it's been noticed, which all of
All of them have
A
been.
was noticed,
Right.
you can carve out parts of it. So, So for example, you could say, we'll take out 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 out of this and keep everything else. You could do that if you wanted to.
I think including the pink area, though, adds a lot of uniformity, and uniformity always feels good to me.
But it's uniformity when you're looking at a map from above.
Yeah.
But when you're actually, trying to accomplish, what we're trying to accomplish is the visual delight of coming into, into our city. And I don't think that that back portion is going to really contribute to that because it's separated by a road.
I think
know,
though,
so-
like if you drive around in like HOAs where like one section went in, 10 years earlier than everywhere else, like you can definitely tell. Even though it has the same like design standards.
Not when it's, because I live in such a community, right, where there were 3 phases, and one was 20 years ago, and in where I live today. And if you're on the Centennial Boulevard or that stretch, you don't see what's beyond that, a road behind that. You only see the tree-lined road as you're going through and the houses that are on it and their yards, but you don't see what's behind, first of all, their backyard, and then the front yard of the house behind that one.
So is it just for as people are driving through though, or is it a section of an area?
Yeah, I'm assuming just based on what we talked about for what the gateway's supposed to be, but, I mean, most people aren't flying over. They're not flying with an airplane or something. It's just driving through with a car, or walking, I suppose, or riding a bike, but it's all street
If they're
traffic.
going to one of those businesses in the pink and they pull in and then it's like, I don't know how vastly different it would be, but if it's vastly different or
No, we-
different, is it gonna feel less nice?
Again, we're looking at on those back properties, the parking issue wouldn't apply as much other than Riverside Drive. It would be more architectural
Landscaping and
and
architecture
How much
landscaping
architectural,
and uses.
and uses, yeah.
yeah, and how much architectural
So I
control
don't,
do we have? We don't, I mean, certainly not with residences. We do have some
these
with,
are not residences.
yeah, some with.
So we've got some, the state has given us some element of control, and what we're trying to do is use the controls that we've been given to,
I totally agree,
Open
but
up
we
that.
have that in the code.
yeah.
And I don't know if we need to necessarily make it any more restrictive as far as architectural uses go. Just on the chance that somebody might see a building between 2 other buildings in front of them. You know what I mean?
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
so. And we have no depth footage in the code. So I don't really, we
That's
say,
the
yeah, more is
discussion
better.
that's needed, is
Yeah,
to determine if that's how we're
yeah,
gonna.
Maybe that's true, but at the same time, since we don't right now, to say that it has to be 250 feet or 500 feet, when it's separated by a road that's going to be, 50 feet across already? I just don't see that we have to go to that length.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because mine's 1 vote. So
No, you-
just saying what my vote is.
That's
Well,
okay.
But you have good opinions
cast
on
mine.
things, and I do appreciate.
Don't cast mine
hearing
either.
from
I'm
you.
really torn here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're starting.
I mean,
We're
the
at
other ones-
Beginnings, we're starting something here, and I think that's a great thing to keep in mind, is we're just at the beginning, and we can work out some details over coming months.
Right.
And maybe make it a little closer to what we feel is maybe more realistic and preserves what we need, but give back what we feel like it really isn't going to make as much difference as.
What would the process look like? So if we go larger, then the property owner comes in and asks for an exception?
They can do that, but we have to,
Is that what the
City
process
council would
look
probably
like?
be-
Because you had mentioned, it's easier to take off than to put on. So are you saying that if we go larger, then there's a process that a property owner
It's the
like
same as a zone change, so they'd have to request.
have to come in as like a zone change?
okay.
Yeah. Or the alternative would be to, we adopt something tonight or recommend something tonight and then look forward to maybe in January, February, do a more streamlined, make some changes, it's city-initiated changes that might be a little bit based more on should we or shouldn't we, maybe based more on, a distance off of the road. And then a particular length, if that makes sense.
Are we done with 3?
Yeah, let's go on.
Let's go to 4.
To get,
I don't have an indication as to groups that.
I think you have the majority of the group, but I don't think, well, maybe you have,
I don't know
you
yet.
have 3.
I'm very torn on it.
Let's go on and.
And we'll go
come
back.
to
I'll
it.
decide.
Yeah.
Whoever makes the
Change my
motion,
mind if
Yeah, right.
they're.
And then we can agree or not, right?
Because I'm using the road as the excuse. The other properties, like areas 1 and 2, there was no road back there, so I'm okay with the bigger one. This one, I'm wondering why go to the trouble, but maybe areas 4, 5, and 6 will change my mind.
Okay, so this was the area that was noticed for Area 4, As you can see, it's much larger or deeper property on the north side of Pioneer Crossing. The south side, sorry.
I'm okay with the smaller one on this one.
South side is 230 feet of depth. Otherwise, you get into an office warehouse zone, and you get into Cliff Lake, which is already underway with some investing there. So that's a much deeper property. So I think that's the best sense we can make on the south side. On the north side, we have options. There is a parcel boundary on that first dotted line above Pioneer Crossing, which makes 145 feet. That doesn't quite seem deep enough. If you wanted to go to 300 feet, looking at the potential for allowing office warehouse back behind that, that might be a consideration. Otherwise, where the blue line is currently on the top, that's 550 feet. Then it's 870 to the northern boundary of that parcel. And again, these numbers that are here are not exact. We will want to, if we have anything that includes a line through a property, and we're going to say up to 300 feet, we're going to say approximately where it makes sense to draw the lines. But this one, probably the 300-foot one would make sense, but if we said 145 feet, it might actually be 144.2, and we don't want to hold us to a particular number.
Right.
If we're drawing it on a boundary line, a property line, then we want it to meet that property line, whatever that distance is. So these are approximate numbers for depth here.
Sarah, are we still just going? shotgun,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, sorry, I should.
Just sorry, yes, we're going
Can I
shotgun.
make a comment, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Or request, Sarah, is it possible, just to kind of, for me to visually get this scale in my mind, to take 250, like on the GIS map, to go on one of the intersections that we have developed, for example, like where the Taco Bell and the Wendy's are and Walmart, and to draw a line 250 feet out from those roads, just so I can see how much that takes in?
That's a great question.
So while we're doing that, I'm thinking on that map, I'm okay on the south side to where it's proposed right now, but I'm thinking on the north side, I keep hearing rumor that eventually they're gonna wanna maybe widen Pioneer Crossing, and I don't think they're gonna wipe out existing businesses along there.
It doesn't need to be exact, by the way.
But I'm thinking maybe the 500 would be a good ending point on the north side. Just leave it at the 230 or whatever it is on the south. That's my thinking.
And would you mind doing the same across the other side, like where the Taco Bell is?
You guys keep mentioning Taco Bell and I'm hungry.
I know.
Doritos Locos, man.
It's a rough day for me.
It's Del Taco anyway.
That one's Taco Bell. Del Taco's on the other side.
Oh,
So was that 240 something?
It's 248.
48.
So you're essentially talking about like one business.
So it includes all the parking lot and everything?
Yeah.
And the road behind
That
it?
puts it into perspective a little bit more.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to have visually like something that's in existence.
Yeah.
What we're talking about
So
depth-wise.
So if we,
Thank you for doing that. That helps me.
So I think I'm okay with what you're saying.
All right. Go further on the north side than the south.
May as well. Since
If
there's
they
no-
do widen Pioneer Crossing, we won't lose. Have something in the back developed that doesn't meet our,
so when you said you were okay with what's proposed on the south side, does that include excluding the red property?
yes, right, the picture right here, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with this one too.
that seems appropriate. I would agree with that.
How deep is that? 230?
Yeah, 230 on the south and 550 on the north. Maybe they won't widen Pioneer Crossing, who knows? I know that's what Lehigh wants to do, they're pushing for it. We good on Area 4?
if we don't widen it, how will we have more accidents happen on it?
We'll lose our bike lanes.
There's very few, there's not enough room for accidents already.
Yeah, I think we're right?
Okay, Area 5.
Sarah?
Right back and forth.
Okay, Area 5, West SR 73.
Oh, yeah, ask about this.
No controversies, right?
No.
This is the area,
One of the night.
Yeah.
this is the one we definitely
the-
don't want a cannabis shop, right?
What's the distance, east-west distance of that area? Or I should say the length of roadway we're looking at.
East to west?
So
Yes.
from the city boundary to the, what is that, Mount Saratoga Boulevard?
Okay.
What does that say?
It's 1,100 feet.
1,150 something, 51 feet?
And then are we going past?
To the back of that parcel, it's about 370.
Okay.
So there are plans for the expansion of that highway, and so our gateway overlay kind of took that into account when we were first looking at going further east than Mount Saratoga Road, that it didn't make sense because there was UDOT property, mostly there was very little left that was developable.
Okay.
Where is that at?
Yeah, that's going to be huge. Look at that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it doesn't look like we have it already on there already.
Right here.
If we're good on that, then let's go to Area 6.
I don't even really know what it means.
I don't know how we could do this any different.
I think that's as good as we
Yeah.
get right there.
Yeah, we're good on that
We're
one.
good?
Yeah.
Okay,
Same, right?
here's 7.
Yeah, I think we should leave it wide and long there.
Yeah, I think that's
I do have a comment on this, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I feel like we're adequately capturing east-west, potential east-west corridor. We're magically hoping that that's where the alignment comes. And then obviously we can adjust as needed if it comes in elsewhere. But I also feel like we should consider a north-south corridor because this would, in envisioning and thinking forward, you are going to have traffic coming off of whatever that bridge or exit is, and then you're going to be having traffic flow to the north through the city. So instead of just an east-west, I also feel like we should have some portion that goes down Redwood Road if possible.
Well, that is 500 feet length on Redwood Road.
So the scale's different on this one, quite a bit different.
Yeah, scale's different.
So do we want to look at 1,000 feet in length along Redwood Road?
Well, I've been hearing bigger is better all night, and if we really want to
Yeah.
make this would be potentially, when you think about where traffic will eventually flow from the east side of the valley, this is where it's all going to come.
What's north of the blue line? Right now?
That's a large parcel. That green is a very large parcel.
Is that the city boundary
That
right?
Ivory,
Or is
City
that-
boundary on the south side there,
Oh,
yes.
that's all incorporated then?
Okay, so that we may have a difficulty in expanding that area now, because even though it's the same property, we did identify in the exhibit that the noticing referred to, that it was a 500-foot depth area.
we can make an adjustment later.
Yeah, we can adjust it later.
So we can leave that as a future suggestion.
Yeah.
Okay, so which ones do we need to go back and vote on?
Area 3. Let's see, no, I guess we were okay on 2, are we, with the full?
Are we going with the bigger one on two? Is that what we
Yeah.
decided?
That was my feel of what was being said.
I think that was the majority consensus.
So then number 3, it's either the full area or carving some out.
We could just vote, and then we'll vote aye or nay.
Okay.
They'll take care of it.
Whatever the motion ends up being.
Do we want to vote on each individual area, make a motion, or just the whole thing?
Let's just go the whole thing.
Can I,
Why don't you do a straw poll just on this area first, and then you can make a motion on it.
on area number 2, should we do, oh, we can go with that after we're done with this one.
Wait, what?
Just on area number 2, what, can you explain to me what they were talking to us about when they talked to us about the area number 2?
Okay, so that piece that's right adjacent to the flesh-colored property,
Right.
below the yellow line, they will have frontage on, what is that, 400? What is that road there?
Yeah, 400 East, yeah, Riverside.
So because that's considered a collector, then they
Right.
won't be able to have parking between their building and the collector road.
Okay.
That would
But
be the main
either
restriction.
way, our decision doesn't affect that because it doesn't just,
We're making a recommendation to the city council.
Yeah.
well, that part's included in both recommendations either way, right? That's what I guess what I'm asking.
Yeah, as far as these options presented
Yes,
here, but.
yeah, but other stuff in the future, but for right now, these two things, okay.
Or you can introduce an alternative option that would recognize their public.
Yeah, right.
So straw poll for 3. All in favor of the big,
So, quick question again. What's the depth of property, number 12?
On this
Did you
one?
say it was 250,
About 200,
Yeah.
200?
Yeah,
maybe 208.
280, I think you said on 14 and 15.
And we're looking at from Pioneer Crossing to the curbside on
Thrive Drive.
property number 3, we're looking at 250 plus?
Number 3?
Is that correct? Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just just
Probably more
thinking
like-
about Ken's comment, which I don't completely disagree with his comment. Just looking at what distances, if we were to come back, say, in the coming year and set maybe some, just hypothetically speaking, set some different types of standards that say, throwing out just a thought, everything within 250 feet, for example, of any, of the collector street for a length of 1,000 feet. I'm just throwing some things out there.
So
Then, if that's a realistic number, 300 feet, I'm just looking at what's the distance of those properties then? Because if,
What is it from Pioneer Crossing to the south
to the south property line of those.
property line of where Napa Auto is coming in?
I don't know how we could ever do a set number. We'd have to do like a range, right? Like, how could you ever set, like, it has to be, it'd have to be, yeah, it would be, but it'd have to be like a range,
You
right?
cross people's property.
Yeah, like you would have to do a range of some sort.
But you just want to know what that distance here would be.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 1,000 feet, to me, it's almost like a no-brainer. I mean, who's going to care about 1,000 feet? So exempt them out, you know what I mean?
246?
I have feelings both ways, so I'm a little bit conflicted there,
I am on this one, I really am.
so.
Sarah, is that the Napa site or is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
I
or
don't
is it
know.
one over?
I think it's over
Is it this
there.
one?
I thought it was that.
That would be the minimum.
You might be right.
I think it's this one.
We might want to check that.
So then you're looking at almost 300 feet.
Well,
Not quite.
as far as what we've been discussing, rather than carving out individual parcels on that north side, otherwise we're
Yeah,
looking
it's
at
that one.
including all of them or taking all of
Yeah.
them out.
Yeah, it's that one there, huh?
It's right here. It's,
Yeah, okay, I apologize, I was looking at the wrong.
And what was that, like 250 feet, 250 feet roughly?
Roughly, yeah, to that corner.
that was
there.
about 200.
240.
246.
What was so if we bring up
And is
area,
it- Sorry, go ahead.
area 3, what's the south? Was it 250?
So that's like 342 right there. Area 3. Oh, that was 246 from the property line to the road.
But on the south side, we have 225, with it right now, 225 feet or 50 feet on the
Over
west
here.
end.
Right.
On the south.
Yeah, 50 feet.
That part would make me change my mind. I forget about that part right there, because it's,
Well, but we can
well, we can make it so we can,
keep that
yeah.
in there.
Right. But yeah, we can make a motion.
Reed,
and
what are your
decide.
thoughts?
Those property owners had requested to not be included.
Yeah.
I would be okay with leaving the lower section included and then go ahead and knock off the top section. Allow that not to be in it. So this modified a little.
So you're talking properties 1 through 7.
Yeah, like it is there, but on the south side, go all the way to the.
Right.
I keep vacillating back and forth.
Just because the UDOT property is probably not going to be developable. We can't tell them to put architecture in there or landscaping.
I would say keep property 1 though, because it is, I mean, 9 is
currently
the,
developed.
oh, it is currently developed? Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Unless they do a facelift and we want to,
But that's I
Something
think,
a
a whole
little-
other conversation.
but
yeah.
they've already got their parking.
Although their building doesn't look
they
too
could-
bad.
No, it doesn't, it really doesn't.
Number 2 is also developed.
My doctor's office there is way big.
Yeah, so we're really looking at 3 through 7, and going bigger is better, but at the same time, Ken's got a good point.
So I,
do
okay,
you think?
straw poll, I want to keep the peak out. Or at least 2, what is it, 3, 4,
3, 4,
5, 6,
5,
7?
and
Since 2 is already being developed.
Yeah, and so is 1, so we might, we can
And
just do that
1.
whole parcel, yeah.
okay.
Oh, and adding the, all of A.
All of, yeah, the lower section.
Okay, so can we have
That's my
a straw poll, and I'm going to make your motion for you, since it's just a straw motion.
Okay.
We need it. I think we can move.
That we consider keeping everything as shown on the original noticing area on the south side. On the north side, removing properties 3 through 7.
Yeah.
You want to do your poll?
Yeah,
I'm nay. I want to include 3 through 7.
You want to include those? Okay. So yay,
I'm really on the border right there, but if I'm on the border, then probably ought to lean toward the owners. What would be in the best interest of the owners of those properties?
But, yeah.
so
Is it
Not
visible? I guess the question
We're
is,
hosing everybody. You're gonna do it.
what's that?
If we're gonna do it, because you're doing it to everybody else.
include
As far as
everything?
include them?
Yeah.
Well, again, the
So-
difference.
Yeah, and they can come back with a request for an exception. I'll be honest, it just comes down to visibility.
So
And
I'm
that's
gonna,
just
I'm gonna be
bottom line.
really, really honest. So driving up Pioneer Crossing, would you ever think twice that it's a chiropractor's office or an auto parts store? When you're driving, trying to get your kids to Smith's or to the soccer game or to anything else? Like, we're so close to this, it's really hard for us to step back from what's going on right here. This is what's going on in my mind, at least, is we're very, very close to this. We ought to be close to this. But John Q. Public driving up Pioneer Crossing is not gonna think twice about whether he just drove by a Napa Auto Parts or the chiropractor office. Because one we allow and one we've decided not to allow. And I'm still not comfortable with the proposition, just generally speaking. We're picking winners and losers. So if we're going to do it, I feel like we ought to I sense the urgency from staff, I sense the urgency from the city council. There is visioning, there is tools that they're requesting to be able to go out and provide what they feel is best for our city. And I think we ought to give that to them and then allow them to make those decisions, because that's what they're elected to do. That's where I've come down on all of this, because it is my job and it isn't my job in some regards. And I want to, if they feel like they need these tools to provide that vision to do the job that they've been elected to do, then I'm going to give them the tools to do that. And they can, because they're elected, they can make the real hard decision around it. That all said, it's really, really tough because of the property owners, because of timing. Like some of those things, some people are winning and some are losing just because they got the piece of paper filed on time.
And maybe it's not about winning and losing, it's who gets the reward of being able to enhance their project more.
That's a great positive spin.
Well, I think, I actually do take notice as we drive by. For example, we talked about the row of restaurants. To me, I think it's great to be able to have a place where you have a choice and you just get out of your car and just walk. But when everything is facing a parking lot, then I don't care for that. Same with this. If you were on a regular commercial street like Redwood Road, then auto parts or a restaurant or whatever, yeah, I mean, visually I could say, I don't like the way that looks, but still, it makes sense that it's here. But we are purposely creating a gateway overlay that has a lot to do with visual.
So-
And that's why I think it does make a difference then if you're an auto parts store or not, if that's what the city council is looking for as far as visual.
So we agree. I mean, essentially, we agree. So
Well, I don't know which-
I'm coming through a different process of reasoning, but we've both arrived at the same.
Yeah, I think that's the case in many situations, but but again, with the other properties, there isn't a back street there that separates, the thing. So if we're really talking about visual, then this one I could see making an exception for, if there are property owners who are asking for that. On the other ones, not so much, because it's all one contiguous property in many cases.
But then I would argue on this case, you have Riverside Drive, which will become another northwest corridor, right, through the city, because right now it doesn't all line up, but eventually it will, because it lines up on this other piece of property where we're telling them that, okay, because you have that road there, we're gonna make you included, and here we're saying, wait, Riverside Drive goes through here, and we're gonna exclude these guys.
Understood, but I don't consider Riverside Drive as being like an entryway into the city.
But it's following under the classification of a collector, which is what we're saying has to align with these gateway overlays.
Right, so as far as like a gateway for entry into the city, with this particular area, it's an east-west concern, access, I think, not so much the north and south. The north and south would be the Redwood Road down in the south and up in the north. So I do see the difference there. Again, when you're driving in the car, coming through from Lehigh into Saratoga Springs, heading west, I don't know if it's going to make that much of a visual difference.
So then why aren't we affording the same consideration to, all because there's a street?
To who?
To the folks that made the public comment here on property number 2 on the East Crossroads.
I thought we did make the.
No. we're
I'm
including-
leaning more and more toward just including the whole thing as is. And then if we need to work out some details and other things in the future, that might just be the best way to go, or allow the city council to deliberate about it as well and see what they come up with. But, I mean, no matter what we do, it's not going to be perfect.
Well said.
But if we can adopt something that gets us on a great foot and gives us somewhere to start, then I think that's a win.
Wait, so I'm still confused. You're talking about the kennel and the car wash?
I'm talking about their piece of property on number 2. So can we go back to slide 2? Or area 2?
Oh, because of the parking.
So their piece of property is east
Has the
of
350 in
the
it.
kennel, east of the car wash where the
Right.
210 and 350 are, and they're saying allow us to have the back part of that excluded out of the gateway overlay. And we're saying no.
Right.
But up above on property 4, you're saying yes.
Well, the difference, though, is that there is that road, as far as the horizontal axis is concerned, there is that road that's behind
I would
the
say-
main
and
road.
I could argue that the road gives you more cause to include than exclude, so it's fine.
But what's the difference between a road and a throughway in the parking area? There's potential, we don't know, that they may have,
And access.
an access road right there, and so it kind of serves the same purpose. It's
I
for
think
cars.
visually it would be very different.
So-
Here,
It could be, it may not be, but, I mean, you're certainly not wrong by any means. I mean, it's good. I think just to get something started here, I think that it's good to just adopt, this is just my opinion, adopt what we've got.
Well, what we've
for the
got are
full-
options, and so we're adopting an option, right? So there's option 1, option 2. And so we're adopting options, and that's why I think there's the discussion. We're not adopting
Yeah.
just what was presented, and there's
Yeah.
only one option for all of them.
You're right,
Yeah.
right.
With this one, I just think that there's no 250-foot buffer from that parking lot, whereas with the other one, there is. And that's really the only reason why I say that, do we really need to go to that, to that length? Since we don't have a depth standard. But again, that's just my vote. Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Are we ready to make a motion?
I'm thinking I'm ready for a motion. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make a motion, actually.
Oh, wait. So
Let's see what the motion is.
I think
how do we separate them out? I mean, because I don't want to just say nay, depending on what you say, right? There's 7 different areas.
Just name the area and state whether
which option?
going with the
To have
whole.
us 7 different votes.
So I think the way that you can help Commissioner McConkey make this motion is if we were to start on area 1 and as he motions, he could say which one he's motioning for. Does that make sense?
But are we making 7 motions?
No, you make it all one motion, but
We
you
could either
include
be-
which.
If we don't like one of them, then we can.
So you would say, I motion to include area 1
Yeah.
Northwood revised as presented, and then we go to area 2 and which we're talking.
But again, then if we vote A
It'll be one motion, and if any part of it, we,
Then you vote
Oh,
nay.
because you're
nay.
saying you want to be able to.
Yeah, because I'm in agreement with all the other ones.
I don't think it's a problem to have 7 motions.
I see what you're saying.
You say there's not a problem or there is a problem?
okay.
Okay,
7
so-
Right,
motions.
is that all, like, we can,
I
It's
moved-
fine. You can split it up, do 7 motions.
Then let's do that.
Yeah,
That's going to be the best.
okay. I move to recommend to the city council approval of the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on area 1 as identified in the staff packet with the findings and conditions.
I think it's revised area.
Yeah, can I make a comment on the
Thank
motion?
you,
Advised?
thank you, I missed that. It would be, I'll do that again. I move to recommend to the city council approval of the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on area 1 North Redwood Road revised, which would not include the office warehouse area, with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated December 12th, 2022.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner McConkey and a second from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay.
Okay, I move to recommend to the city council approval of the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on Area 2, East Crossroads.
That's it.
Is that it?
The original
The original, yes, thank you, the original proposal.
noticed area.
Yes, the full noticed area with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated December 12th, 2022.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Commissioner McConkey and a second from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I move to recommend the city council approval to the request, approval of the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on Area 3, Pioneer Crossing to Redwood Road, including the full noticed area with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated December 12, 2022.
We have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay.
still very divided, but.
So we have 5 ayes and 1 nay on that one. All right, area number 4, the next one.
Can I include all the rest of them in one motion? Are there any differing?
There are differences, because, well, area 4 would be the options of excluding the area in red. down.
Okay. I'll do
Yeah,
area
the-
4.
Yeah.
I move to recommend to the city council approval of the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on Area 4, East Pioneer Crossing, with the option of excluding the properties number 12, 13, and 14 as shown.
We have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Commissioner Burns.
Clarification,
I'd like to also
say
include
the option that goes up to the depth of approximately 550, or are you wanting to include the full depth as noticed?
We wanted the second one, the next one.
But so.
The full depth, but except the
Identify
13.
the approximate depth.
Talking about the north.
Okay, can I restate my motion?
Yep.
Is that fair enough?
Yeah, we can do that. Withdraw the motion and,
I'll withdraw my initial motion on Area 4 and like to make a new motion. I move to recommend to the city council approval to the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on Area 4 East Pioneer Crossing, the option of excluding properties number 12, 13, and 14, and extending the north property to the 550 feet approximate line with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated December 12th, 2022.
we have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, on to the, do we want, the rest of them we're just include as noticed, right?
There were no other options, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's 5, 6, and 7, correct?
Yep.
7 did have the option, but no, you're going with the full notice.
Yeah.
You could put 5, 6, and 7 together in one.
Okay. Do you want to flip the, do we need to flip the properties?
6 and 7.
Perfect, thank you. I move to recommend to the city council approval of the request to amend the zoning map by applying the designation of gateway overlay on areas 5, 6, and 7.
As noticed?
As noticed, thank you, as noticed with the findings and conditions in the staff report dated December 12th, 2022.
We have a motion from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Burns. Do we have a question on the motion?
I have a question on the motion that I made. Is the December 12th correct? Or should I
December
be?
12th would be the staff report, so it was updated since the last meeting.
So it says December 12th in here. Should I be saying today's date?
Today's date, if you're on the motion, yeah, but if your motion is including the date according to the staff report as written on December 12th, I'm not sure what date you're using there.
I'm just reading it here and I wasn't paying attention to the fact that it says December 12th, but today's the 22nd.
Right, but what is it saying?
It's the
This is the
staff.
staff report.
The staff report.
That's what was noticed
Was,
too, isn't it?
was dated
Staff
December
report was
12th.
written on the 12th.
Okay, okay,
So your motion's good.
my motion is good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. All right, that one passes. Are we good? Yeah. Are we good to continue on to the next one, or do we need, anybody need to take a break?
Let's get it done.
Let's power through if we can. So, next item, item number 5, public hearing, general plan modification, moderate income housing goals and timeline, city initiative. This is presented by Tippy Moreland. Go ahead, Tippy.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. This is the whole reason we're here today with the special meeting. The state of Utah requires that every general plan is required to include a moderate income housing element. So when we did the general plan update recently, our consultant also submitted our moderate income housing plan to the state. They kicked it back to us and said that we were missing an implementation plan with specific dates. So they wanted a little bit more specificity. Plus, they said we needed to adopt the implementation plan into the general plan. So I've just included a little screenshot here of that section that we're missing in the state code. And then as part of the amendments, I've just added this little blurb to the text of the general plan we have a 3-page housing element. So it just says, see the appendix for the complete implementation plan that we've had. And then I have the draft of the implementation plan attached to the staff report. So that would be just an appendix adopted into the general plan with this reference note in the housing section. So with that, I'll turn this over to the commissioners for questions.
Thank you, Tippy. This is a public hearing, so I'm going to go ahead and open this up for the public for any comments that the public may have this time. I will go ahead and close the public hearing, and I will open this up to the commission for questions. Commissioner McConkey.
I just wanted to start out just expressing gratitude for the tremendous work putting this together. The strategies, goals, benchmarks, timelines, all were, in my opinion, well thought through and clearly laid out. Appreciate the professional writing and commitments made by the staff. And in my opinion, the amendment is written better than the general plan. So I just wanted to say that. I had sent an email to Sarah earlier. I don't know, did you get those emails in there? Yeah, I passed that on. Okay, appreciate that. Do we need to include those in a motion at all, or this, actually, is this a recommendation?
We don't need to. Some of them were just little typos and others on language clarification. Those were some things that we probably want to leave as they are just because they have legal meanings.
Okay.
Maybe, is that one of them that you got?
Is may, yeah, maybe, in that same paragraph, in the second to last line, it says product, multifamily housing product, does seem to me to be, need to be plural, it's just little typos. I've always been interested or curious about how the state's viewing these IADUs, if it's considered moderate housing, but it sounds like it's in the strategy, that's one of the options, and so that answered that question. I had sent you a question, can Prop 6 be applied to the district area plans?
No, it was already vested before Prop 6.
Okay. Bummer. What's the feasibility, looking at strategy E with the IADUs, recognizing that there are some proposals in certain developments that currently the development agreements do not allow anything other than one family to reside technically in a home, which exempts the ability to, or creates the inability for IADUs. Is there, what's the feasibility of creating a process in the city for these developments which are not HOAs to, if there are enough people, either a simple majority or a, what do you call it, 2/3?
We do have that in the code now.
You do?
Yeah, we updated, after the last legislative session, we updated the definition of family to not have a strict restriction, so we complied with the state legislation.
Okay, so if someone would like an IADU, but the development agreement says they can only have single-family dwellings or one-family dwellings in there. I had asked some questions. In fact, Ken this past year had sent me some information. It sounded like one particular development, they would not be able to have IADUs because of the verbiage in the development agreement. Is there a way that if there are enough people in that development who would like to be able to have IADUs, is there a process to be able to do that?
I wasn't actually
that
aware
development
of development agreements that were prohibiting them. I thought it was a HOA or city code. There's development agreements prohibiting them?
So there was the Jacobs Ranch subdivision, which yes, I am in the Jacobs Ranch subdivision in there. I'm not interested in having an IADU, but I know that there are some in the development who either have pursued or would like to.
I don't know that we can answer that on the spot. That's a legal question.
Fred had a comment.
Development agreements can be amended, and Sarah, and so, but you would have to have all of the parties to the development agreement coming and requesting an amendment to the development agreement. It's not enough to.
It's not a majority.
Just one party or, yeah.
So if there's Jacobs Ranch, let's say it has 2,000.
It depends on who is the party in the development agreement. We just have to check that as a legal matter.
When you say the party, what do you mean by party?
Well, it's a contract. A development agreement is a contract between the city and a developer.
Right.
And somebody succeeds to the developer's obligations in the contract. So if you get that party.
So if it's
and
not an HOA, then
I don't know who it is. I haven't looked at it. It could be the HOA.
They don't, so the challenge with Jacobs Ranch in particular is they have a development agreement, but they don't have an HOA. So they don't have an entity enforcing the development agreement other than amongst themselves. So that's why.
So then you would probably have to have all of the parties.
The entire development?
Yes.
Interesting. So if we have individuals who are in their later years and supplement their income due to the wonderful inflation or what have you, then every property owner in the development would need to agree to,
It is a legal question. We'd have to look at it.
The
Indeed.
part that's a legal question is whether or not state code trumps that development agreement, and I don't know the answer to that, so that's a legal question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can find out, or that I need to ask or have someone in the development who wants an ADU?
I
need
do
to-
actually think it's a legal question for the owners in that agreement, not necessarily for the city to answer, but for those owners within the development to have their legal counsel answer.
I do agree with that. They can go and seek counsel from an attorney and can give them
Okay.
idea of the process.
Okay. I will,
Chose to live in a place that has no HOA representing them, so.
correct, which I prefer.
Yeah, so it's their issue.
Yeah. No, I would agree. It's not the city's issue. My question was just if there is a process or what that might look like. So my question is, how does that development open itself up with the city? If we're talking about moderate income housing, to be able to include that area in the IADU allowed areas without creating obviously a legal issue.
But the city's in compliance because they're within the 25%.
Correct.
Is that all you had?
That's, I believe so. That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Kilgore. Thank you, Commissioner McConkey.
It seems like we consider the multifamily housing as the, I don't know, what is it, form of development, or form of development that aligns with our ideas of moderate income housing. But why can't single-family detached homes be that as well? Because in my experience, depending on which city you live in, the multifamily homes can be extremely expensive, while single-family homes are really cheap, depending on where you live. So does that align with how the state thinks, or is it something that we're considering as well, where we could include single-family homes as moderate income housing?
Yeah, so the state definitely is more in line with the idea of multifamily housing as moderate income housing. However, with Prop 6 and all the narrative that we've put into our document, we've tried to argue that by providing smaller single-family lots, that also serves a different need for moderate income housing and the missing middle housing. So some people at the state, we did meet with them and they reviewed our draft. So they did give us the go-ahead before we came to you with this. They said that that is a direction that they like, but we don't know where the legislation is going to go next year as well. So it's totally different in the future.
Okay, because, I guess Prop 6 only addressed, or specifically addressed multifamily housing without realizing that there could be lots of ways to make things higher dense, or with higher density and lower prices without even touching multifamily housing. Okay. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Which is funny.
Consequence of
Yeah, which I think is hilarious. But the other thing is, it didn't feel like the timelines had any actual specific dates, but rather this is being, this particular item is being reviewed every year, right, annually, or opposed to having like a real timeline. Is that going to meet what the state wanted from us? Or
Currently, yes. The reason we did this is because adopting this into the general plan means it's in the general plan for the next 10 years or however long it takes for us to update it again. So we want it to be relevant annually, at least until we have to update it by new state code, whatever happens in the future. So at least at this rate, we have some metrics. Like as a long-range planner, I'm trying to make sure that our general plan doesn't just get shelved. So I'm trying to come up with an implementation plan, maybe a scoring sheet. How are we doing every year. Not every city does that, but having these types of goals in here kind of helps me to give metrics, at least for our housing element, to see how we're doing.
Okay. And then the state offered a number of strategies, and then each city adopts, 3. So if you happen to adopt what we adopted, for example, how do we know that, like maybe IADUs don't provide the kind of moderate income housing that we were hoping for? That's not the effect that it actually has. And then is there like a certain number of moderate income housing target that we're supposed to meet? And do we know if the strategies that we pick will actually do that? Or there's no such actual metric other than implementing some strategies?
Yeah, so the minimum required for every city is 3 plans, or 3 strategies. However, starting next year, they're going to cut funding to cities that don't have at least 5. So that's the reason we chose 5. And we tried to pick ones that we are already doing. We don't know for sure, like the IADUs is a totally new thing for every city, so we don't know how that's going to go. But as far as the state is concerned with compliance, we're trying. So it seems like this topic will change every year, at least in the near future, with the legislature and the way that it's set up today. So it's something that we'll have to revisit every year. Hopefully, we won't have to do a plan update every time, though.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
When we do the report annually, the data provides the income and the housing cost data, and we use their numbers for where we're at, and there is a certain percentage we're supposed to be at. So they want us to have, I don't remember off the top of my head, but a certain percentage in the low income category and the moderate income category for every city. They want, or at least striving towards those percentages.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just have a quick question, and I don't know, I was trying to figure it out on my own, and the math got too complicated, and so I'm just going to ask the question here of the pros. Tippy, I appreciate it. So we have Prop 6, and now we have laws that have subsequently been passed. When the dust all settles, I noticed in part of it, we're already out of alignment with what Prop 6 essentially asked for. When the dust all settles and the city's built out, do the two peacefully coincide with each other? Are we going to be out in one regard or another because of the vested rights, like on the properties that were mentioned prior to this? Do we know that as a city where things will the chips will actually fall when it's all said and done?
Yeah, in the report, I don't have it in my slides here. If you look at the number of vested residential units we have outside of Prop 6, it's almost 2/3, I think over 2/3 multifamily. So we will have even more multifamily when we're all built out, mostly because of community plans and then because of properties that were vested before Prop 6.
So if I'm hearing you right, we're going to have more multifamily than Prop 6 wanted?
Correct. But Prop 6, from what I understand, and it's actually really, it was difficult to kind of find the language of Prop 6.
Yeah,
But
so
when
I
you
guess
look at
I
the
kinda-
language,
yeah.
it was to adopt these percentages into the general plan. Our general plan is advisory, so we aim for these numbers. We're tracking these numbers, which is more than most cities have been doing. Just because we have Prop 6, we've started tracking before the state has required it, but we are ahead of it.
So, and I appreciate the extra work, like it's clear, obviously, that the work that's gone in from the planning department. So then is Prop 6 basically toothless at the end of the day? I guess I'm trying to say, because you have a conflict now between what was taken as a vote of the people, right? And now you have a legislature that's come in and said, no, you will have these certain mandates after these benchmarks. So which one wins the day?
It's my understanding that the entitlements were before Prop 6, the multifamily entitlements. Is that correct, Tippy? Or
Yeah, so you go back to 2009, right? Prop 6 was 2013, correct?
So it's likely that we'll have more multifamily than what's listed in Prop 6 because of the current vesting. All of these come through as community plans and then village plans. So right now, we actually can't predict what percent is going to be single family and what percent is going to be multifamily. However, it's more than likely that we'll have a higher percent of attached product than what Prop 6 says. However, as a city, as we grow and expand, we keep track of those numbers so that we can keep that in mind. if we do get requests for new rezones for multifamily, that really does help us to know where we're at, because then we can take into consideration where we're at and if we're already above that, and whether or not that impacts the decision. For vested properties, we can't take that away, but we really can consider that when we're getting requests for more.
So at the end of the day, Prop 6 is a recommendation and a guideline for anything new that comes in to try to just keep it in like a check or a balance, I guess, for your consideration.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, there's no ultimate penalty or bite or, I mean, there's nothing that was vested in that language, correct?
Correct. It just said to adopt it in the general plan.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner McConkey.
Just a quick comment. I mean, it was said, you know, any request for rezoning, if we already have more multifamily than Prop 6 intended, and someone requests to, you know, to rezone something, we have an understanding of the answer is probably no, because this is where we're at, so.
If there's no other comments, I will entertain a motion.
Based upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move to recommend approval to the City Council of the proposed general plan amendment with the findings and conditions in the staff packet.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kilgore. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A second from Commissioner Burns. Any question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes. Reports of action tonight.
Oh. Are you guys doing your reports of action?
For the item on the gateway, but it hasn't been presented yet. I don't know if that needs,
Of action for both of these items, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the city council meeting will be before we approve the minutes. Is that how it works?
So I have one ready to go for gateway.
Aha.
Do you have a, so last time we put them up on the screen, I think Ken, they're, how do
There
you
was
wanna-
no way I could anticipate this prior to the meeting. So, I mean, exactly what would be moved on. So it was just what happened here at the meeting I've written down on the report.
So Ken's is handwritten, so do you want to just,
Do we need
I
to?
can read it to
those?
you if you'd
do
like.
you want to read it?
Why don't you read read the parts that are custom to the report.
Okay, I mentioned in concerns raised by public, comments from property owners for the proposed kennel in Area 2 from Wright Development Group and the owners of the southeast property in Steel Ridge subdivision requesting removal of properties in the overlay. Planning Commission discussion, each area, areas 1 through 7, were looked at and reviewed individually with optional boundary line changes to exclude certain properties. Commissioner Kilgore wanted to exclude properties 3 through 7 in Area 3. Commissioner McConkey made the motion, and I made in parentheses a comment, each area was moved on separately. McConkey made all motions. That the zoning map would be amended as shown, except as stated below, with conditions as stated below, which are, Area 1 would only include property on west of Redwood Road where zoned regional commercial. Area 4 to include north side properties up to approximately 550 feet and exclude properties numbered 12, 13, and 14. And I failed to get who seconded all the motions. Maybe you could. Did you do all of them? Great. All 7 motions. Okay. Then the vote was 6-0 for all of it except for Area 3 was 5-1 with Kim Kilgore voting nay on that. And then referring to the discussion above so that you see what he was voting nay for. So that's it.
Okay, so we need to do a motion to approve that, correct? Okay,
Well, Tippy needs a few more minutes, so if we can come back for that one. So if you want to make a motion on that one, then we'll come back.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the reports of action for the overlay zone, gateway overlay zone. Commissioner Ryan.
So moved.
I'll second that.
I basically did, sorry. Do we have a second from, so Commissioner Ryan made the motion, a second from Commissioner McConkey. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, that one passes. Then we're waiting for Tippy. Any commissioner comments while we're waiting for Tippy's?
It might take her a few minutes, so if you want to take a break, do you need a few minutes, Tippy?
Okay, that would be, I would
do-
appreciate that.
Okay, we're good. She's ready.
Oh, you're ready?
Yep.
We can do the commission comments and the director's report.
Okay. Any commission comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to welcome Commissioner, I want to say elect, but we better say appointed, Wilden. He's not just a crazy member of the public, but he will be joining us on the commission in the new year, so welcome, and hopefully we didn't scare you away tonight.
Oh, I didn't know he was here this evening.
So welcome, glad to have you.
Can I talk to you right after? So, great. Director's report.
Yes, so I just wanted to give you an update on the last city council meeting, which was December 6th. So there were quite a few items on there because there were items from 2 planning commission meetings. And so the Riders Station rezone, that was the one on Fairfield and Pony Express that was requesting to go from commercial to multifamily. That was denied. And then we had IADU map review code amendment, and that was approved. And then accessory structures code amendment, which was approved. Then we had some changes to signage and to car wash spacing. So the changes to signage were not approved. One of those was to allow a preview board at drive-throughs, and that was denied. And then the other one was to allow designated pickup spaces for food establishments. And that one was tabled, and the direction given to staff was that they would like to see those additional parking stalls not included in the regular count. And so we'll be bringing that back. And then the changes to car wash spacing, the 5,000 foot was approved. They made the motion so that Tommy's had time to complete their submittal and get in a Tommy's Car Wash over here had time to complete that submittal and get that through the door. So that's how that motion went. And then we had the kennel parking, they were requesting a parking reduction from 4 to 2 per 1,000 square feet, and that was denied. And then we also had a code amendment for trailer signs, and that was tabled because they were concerned how it would affect some of the small business trailers. So that was tabled for additional amendments.
If I may, I could add to what is coming up at your next meeting. We've alluded to some of that, but we have the pending legislation ordinance, which excuse me, is going to City Council on the 3rd of January. We have included a few things in that. So one is the gateway overlay uses that we're looking to amend and add some prohibited uses. Also included in that pending ordinance is some provision for the car wash spacing from residential properties. That was not a part of the last amendment. And also
From each other or both?
from residential properties. So a car wash from residential
In
properties.
addition,
In addition to the space
Right.
from each other,
The
right?
5,000 foot was already
Okay,
approved.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, that was already approved, thank you.
Yeah. And then the third thing that is included on that was a request by City Council that we allow them to have final say or approval on commercial site plans or non-residential site plans. So we have to make an amendment in the code to show that process being changed. So that's going forward on the 3rd as pending legislation, but we're turning right around, bringing those 3 items to you on the 12th.
Okay, great.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Was there, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Was there a particular reasoning behind the city council's desire for the commercial
Well, you might need to ask the city council, but I think they're just feeling out of the loop and wanting to have more review capability and say on what's happening with the non-residential site plans. It used to be that way. I don't recall, it happened before I came here where it was changed to allow some of these site plans to be approved by the Planning Commission. But there is specific lines being proposed to add in categories for multifamily so that those can still be approved by Planning Commission. It's specifically the non-residential that the city council is interested in.
That was a number of years ago when there was a big, huge list of things they changed, who was going to be the final approval on.
I should know, the planning commission will still see the site plans and make a recommendation to the city council.
Be a recommendation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Are we still got a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I can review the comments. Should I? Okay, so as far as the planning commission discussion, the key points, I got down where we had a discussion and clarifications on how Prop 6 interacts with moderate income housing in the city, a discussion on how the timelines are not set to a specific month and year, with the clarification that this was so they can be implemented without amending the general plan every year, a discussion on smaller single-family lots and whether they can be considered moderate income housing, and that they're sometimes cheaper than multifamily housing. And we had a discussion on IADUs and whether it is known if they're effective at contributing to moderate income housing.
Okay, any other questions on that from the commission before we go ahead and approve it? So I'll entertain a motion to approve the general plan modification. Or how about I'll move to approve the reports of action for the general plan modification for moderate income housing goals and timelines.
So moved.
All right. So
Do we have a second?
do we have a second? Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Commissioner Ryan and a second from Commissioner Barton. Do we have a question on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, that is passed. Do we need to go into a closed session tonight? No. So then we're going to adjourn this meeting until, when is our meeting? In January?
January 12th?
The 12th. So this meeting will stand adjourned until January 12th.
Again, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.